All right, everyone. Folks are getting settled. I apologize again. This is Allison Weir of NDBN. I apologize for the initial technical glitch. It seems that every time we think we've got WebEx totally down, we learn new things about it. But this is our second structured discussion. Today we're going to be talking about NDBN, about inventory management sheets. We're very lucky to have Pam Sutherlin of the HappyBottoms Diaper Bank to lead our discussion. Pam has been able to use Excel spreadsheets and Google spreadsheets to be able to create a cost-effective inventory management. So some basic rules: if you're not speaking, please mute yourself. There's a little button by the side of your name. If you guys look into your at Meeting Center participant, you can mute your. I think there's a little button you can use to mute as well. I think also if everyone can, we're going to be taking questions through the chat box. If you have a question, just type in chat. I'm going to type a question for chat right now, and if you can read it, just raise your hand. Okay. Excellent. So I'm going to turn over the presentation authority to Pam, so she can go ahead and lead our discussion. And Pam?
Yeah.
Take it away.
Okay. Do I need to share again, or are we good?
Yes, we'll need to share everything again.
Okay. If you'll just give me a second, I'm going to finish sharing here.
Okay.
Okay. All right. And I've got the client application up. Can you see that, Allison?
Yes, I can.
Okay, then I will go ahead and get started. Thank you for letting me do this, Allison. HappyBottoms is in Kansas City, Missouri. And I'm going to start out talking about our agency client application, which we blatantly stole from Joanne Goldblum with her permission. When we got started, one of the things that we did was talk to other very successful diaper banks to understand what they did to track client information, how did they do their orders, and we compiled probably some different ideas. And everything for us starts with the agency client application, which our partner agencies, we've got 18, each of them has their client, obviously a parent or caregiver, complete the agency client application. And it provides us with the demographic information that we need. It also provides us with order information, which includes the sizing. And it also has a disclaimer down below that each parent or guardian signs. And the one that you'll probably be looking at, it may be slightly different. We have updated this, but it's really more details in regards to the sizing. The other thing is that as we've learned through this process what funders or what grants or what other information are sources of income, right through here has kind of modified or fine-tuned that. So really those are the only differences. If you're looking at a different version, that may be the only difference. But the client application, the hard copy, this is in a PDF, and each agency, we share this through Google Docs with them, and they just make copies of these. They retain the hard copy in their files, and that's part of our partner agency agreement with them, that if there is any audit or question, that they are responsible for maintaining that. But what they use this for is to input into a database, which is through Google Docs. Each agency maintains an individual file. So I'm going to show you what that file looks like. And it's basically Excel-like in Google Docs. And the reason we went to a shared version into Google Docs is when we started this process, we tried to do it in Excel, and people have different versions and emailing back and forth. And one of our agencies sent something to me in Google Docs, and I thought she was absolutely the most brilliant thing in the world, which she is very, very brilliant. But when I said, can you show us how we do this, she said, oh my gosh, I'm giving away all my secrets. This is so easy. So I had not even heard about Google Docs or worked with it and was able to do this. So I can't emphasize enough that it really is very basic and very easy to work with. By having it shared, everybody can work in this in the agency, and then they don't have to send me anything. I can just go into the file. And I'm kind of giving some very basics, making an assumption that people haven't really worked in Google Docs, and if you have, then you know what I'm talking about. But this one, this demonstration file, this would be a typical what an agency would look like. But how we've created this in Google Docs, and I have to find my little thing. Did somebody say something? And I hope you'll just give me a second here. I'm going to go into this to go into Drive. In order to create this, what we did was we created a Google form. And we took our client application, and it can be created. What we did was all the questions, you can just go in and you can create a form. So this would be, for instance, a client application. And it lets you just go in and create the questions. You can have, for instance, multiple choice. You can design your answer, check boxes, whatever you need to do. And then you can just go to your next one and add it. And I'm not going into great detail here, but it's very easy to use, easy follow. So we took the client application, going in through form, we created an input form, and I'm going to show you that now. So when you go into the Google Doc and you open it up, it's going to look like this. But if you go into the live form, there's an input that follows along with our client application. So the first time a client applies for diapers, the agency will complete the application, which is also going to give them distribution and order sizing. And they will fill out this information, and when they input and submit it, it auto-populates this spreadsheet. So we have all of this demographic information, but we also have sizing orders. And each month has its own tab. And the reason for that is that through the month, they will input what they distributed, and they will order for the next month. In some months, they may not order anything. The client may not have a need, may be out of their program, whatever the case may be. But what we're able to do then is, on an ongoing basis, to capture a database of who we are serving, and then also to develop the orders from this database. But what they have to do each time is they don't have to re-enter the information. Instead, like for instance here in January, they're going to show if they distributed to this agency, or I'm sorry, to this client, how many diapers they may have distributed. And we do a max of 50 diapers per child per month, or 30 pull-ups. And then they would decide if they need to order, and if they need to go up to a size 5, for instance, and then how many diapers they need. So this is the way they submit their orders to us. So if there's no client application completed, there's no order information. I think I was asked the question, you know, do we have trouble with our agencies completing the client application? And we don't, because this is how they have to order diapers. What we do then is, once they have completed at the last day of the month, I have to actually go in and protect the worksheet, just like an Excel spreadsheet, where only I can be the one to go into this. And this allows me then to create the pivot tables that I'm going to use for our fulfillment of diaper orders. And so what I'll do is actually protect that worksheet, and then I'm able to go in and run a pivot table. So I'm going to go ahead and show what a pivot table is. And I don't know if you're getting any questions, Allison, or if you want me to just keep on rolling.
Keep on rolling right now, Pam. So far I haven't seen any questions, but if anybody has a question, please type it in the chat box.
Okay.
And in the meantime, also, could you also lower your hands so that when you have a question, you can raise your hand and I'll know to call on you.
Okay. There's several things that we do. And by the way, you know, the reason that we've used this Google Docs is it's free. It's something that all our agencies can do. We have been very fortunate. It allowed us to determine what data we needed and fine-tune that. We have a digital marketing company that's actually, for our website, they are building, taking this and making it web-based. And it's going to provide, you know, query reports. I won't have to go through all this manual processing and pivot table, but having done this for about a year and a half now, it's enabled us to determine what it was that we needed in terms of the database, which has been so important for us. So one of the things that
I did it last year as well. Okay. It's a weird. So I'm going to talk to Christina with SBSC about it, but I'm waiting. Jim wanted to talk about the list because we don't want to repeat.
And Allison, I'm hearing some voices, so I don't know.
Yeah, I'm playing with the mute on buttons now, and I'm muting everybody.
Okay. You know, there are several pieces of information that we report each month. We purchase diapers from our local food bank, and they require that we actually report the number of children, the number of families that we serve. But this is information that we want, too, to know how many children actually receive the diapers. And what we do is go into the spreadsheet. So, for instance, at the end of December, and you can see I'm going to just sort this on what's been distributed, because that's how I'm going to determine how many children they distribute. So I just do a very quick count, and that's how I know how many children. And that, to us, is the easiest way. Now, if I want to go in and figure out my diapers, I do a pivot table, which, again, I had not worked with pivot tables before. And they're very simple. They're under data, pivot table. And you'll run into this a little bit with Google sometimes. And I don't know if I can see what my field is here. I don't know if there's any way to get rid of this little thing here in the corner. There we go.
Okay.
Perfect. I was trying to see what my range was on here. Okay. So when you create the pivot table, it just wants some information from you. And it wants you to create a range here, which I'm going to do this again and you can just go in and delete them very easily as you're working with them. Okay. So we're going to go into the pivot table. And there it's got my range, which AB16 is what I need. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do define my rows, and I'm going to do order size. And then my value here is I'm going to do order quantity. And that tells me that in size 3s they need 110, size 4s they need 350, and size 5 they need 80. I go in and customize this way. And this would obviously be the name of each agency. Oops. Do you mean to do that? And then for us old eyes here, what I've just created is my fulfillment order then for that agency. And we take this to our warehouse, and then when we pull the order, we're going to go in and pull for size 3s, 110, and then we'll write in the actual number. Size 4, write in the actual number. Size 5, write in the actual number. And then this pivot table, I don't need to retain them in here. I've got the hard copy, and then I've got this information that I'll show you in our spreadsheet later on. One of the things that to note about using the Google Doc and using that live form is that it will populate just this first tab here. How I create these other tabs is I do this. I will go in and I will duplicate. And this, for the next month, I rename, and it becomes February. And then this becomes my January record. Which I then protect, because this is going to give me my record for the year of what happens with that agency and what children we actually provided diapers to during the month. Now, one thing I have to do, and this isn't always the most efficient, and I don't know if that's the right word, but this definitely gives us the information that we need.
Sam, do you start a new workbook for every year, or do you keep the same workbook for the agencies for as long as you're working with that agency?
Right now, we have kept the same workbook, and we had thought about starting up a new one. With us having this new system up in place, we're not going to. We may have done that. One of the things that by going through that live form, do you see this timestamp? That automatically timestamps when this was entered, and we're using that to track the client and the length of time they're in our program, because we agreed to provide diapers up to 2 years. So if we were to create a new workbook each time, then those dates would have to somehow, we'd have to find a way to carry them forward. And it can be done. I mean, we just, right now, you don't see their 2011 tabs. Those are all hidden right now. And what I will do is I've gone in and done this already. I've hidden all their 2012, so they just see what's going on in 2013. But I can get to all of their information. It makes for a pretty big file.
Great, thanks.
Okay, so let me just show you this. So this would be, when I change these up, I go in and change these dates here so that this would show what they ordered in February, or I'm sorry, what they distribute in February, and then what their March order is going to be. So I do have to manually go in and make these changes to the file. And when I do, in the live form, it will go in and update those two. And actually, I keep pulling up the old one, so you're not going to see that here. So on here now, we've got our fulfillment sheet. We've determined the number of children for the month that we provided diapers at that agency. The other thing that we will go in and do is for families, because some families can have more than one child, this is where we use a pivot table, and we use a function called concatenate, and that is just grouping different pieces of information. For instance, if you had several families with the last name of Williams, you need to find something to connect to that so that that will identify them uniquely. And that may be the first name, first and last name, concatenate, push those together, along with if your agency, for instance, some of ours have a ID for that parent. So I'm going to show you this one. It's a little bit trickier. I've already done it right here, so I'm going to go into another month just to show you if that's okay. Yeah, I've already got those done for that month. Let's see if we can do it here. Okay. What I have to do on that is I have to add a column, because that's a unique thing about Google is in that initial tab, it's not going to let me go in and do this. So I have to do it for each month. But again, it's for us, it's worth it because of the information it provides. So I've got a new column that's been added. And I'm going to do the concatenate function, which is just a very easy one. Google pops it up for me. And I'm going to add first name, and these are the columns where this information is, identifier column, and then last name. And then it's going to pull that information together, which I can just copy and paste. And then I'm going to run a pivot table on this column to come up with the unique number, or the unique number of individuals here, which would then be my family. So I'll show you that one. And again, the pivot table's under data. And the field I'm going to is that last column that I just added. And instead of summing it, I'm going to do a function here called count unique. And when I do that, it tells me the number of unique individuals, which would be the families. So I've got a pivot table then for my families, and I've got a pivot table for my orders. Okay. After we have and I'm kind of looking through my notes, see if there's anything else here. After we have taken all of these sheets and we have filled the orders, what I do is I have an Excel spreadsheet that I use to track this information. And, you know, all of this is free in lieu of a very nice inventory system, but it is tracking the information that we want, and we're able to use that to make determinations on what we need to order. You know, we've just had a year-end inventory observation by a CPA firm, and our inventory has been accurate, so it's been very, very helpful. That's one of the things that we've actually, several funders here in town who want to do projects are anxious to fund an inventory system. But as I said, in lieu of having the funds to have one more sophisticated, this has worked. So what happens is then I take from that pivot table that I was showing you, each agency by size, what they've requested, and you can see we've got the different sizings here, and then what they actually, we fulfill for the order. And one of the things is I have a supplemental form here, and that's for pull-ups by the different sizes. In total, they just go here because really that's what we just want to know, but the breakdown is on another tab over here.
Pam, if I could interrupt for just a second, we had a question about whether, and I think we've got a couple of different, we obviously have a couple of different spreadsheets going on right now, but one question was whether the spreadsheet was automatically, the Excel table is automatically populated. And so as I'm understanding, I want to make sure that we've got this right. The Excel spreadsheet of each agency, with each tab, the individual month tab, is automatically populated when the agency puts in the information from the client application. And then the Excel sheet.
Yeah, why don't I go ahead and show one of those? What happens when I do that? That's a really good question. Okay. So let's go here. So I'm going to go into live form, which is how our agencies, the first time they fill this out once, and then they just use the spreadsheet to update information. So my son gets used as a guinea pig on a lot of these. So if I had, some of our agencies have actually a parent or child ID that they use, which is fine. If they would prefer to do that, some of it's for privacy issues, and that's why we have that information in there. The birth date goes in here. Zip code. Then the gender, and this follows along that client app. And this is what I was telling you earlier. We've pared these down, but this was our initial stab, and we kind of lived and learned what we really needed to be looking for on these in terms of poverty level. And that's what's really driven what we've targeted on those. And the health insurance, one of our grants that we write for the Healthcare Foundation actually asks that question. This has really changed to where we basically say, do you have Medicaid, yes or no? And that's what we were trying to get at here. So that is something that we've changed. And that just in case somebody's wondering, why are you asking those questions? So that they're active the first time they're going through. It's probably, they'll know if it's a one-time emergency service or ongoing, depending on their program. And we have more detail on these diaper sizes, but we'll start out with large. And sometimes if they have an additional quantity of diapers, they will distribute some. If not, in fact, we'll just, we'll go ahead and leave that. Then it may just be blank where they're ordering for them versus distributing and ordering. So the next month, they're going to order another 50. and then they submit. And this is the one drawback of Google. I can't go back up and edit. I can go onto the spreadsheet, and I can edit that way. So you can see how I have populated the spreadsheet. If I need to make a change, I can go on here and make it. But it's much quicker for our agencies to be able to input with those forms. And then going forward, as each month changes and they get a new tab, they won't update this information, but instead they will go in and just provide what they distributed, if they distribute it to that client again, and then an order for the next month. And that's how we do our size matching too.
So once they have a client in there, when they pull up the client's name, then the form pops up again?
I'm not sure I'm following. So what they'll do is whenever they open up and go into their database, they'll see their client, like here.
Okay.
And then what they'll just do is this will be blank for the month, and they will just record what they distributed and then order. So it's really just filling out these 3 columns each month once the client is in the database.
Okay.
And some of the clients, you know, we had one agency that served 750 unique individuals. That doesn't mean last year, in 2012. That doesn't mean that they serve 750 children each month, but people come, they need diapers for a few months to get them through, you know, an emergency, and then they go out of the program. So that's why, you know, we've got this active, and they will go in and change them, their status, just right on here, if they're out of the program.
Thanks.
Okay. I hope that answered the question there. Okay. And again, we can keep going back if you have any questions. So yes, when you input via the form, it automatically populates this spreadsheet. But my orders that I create with the pivot tables, I have to go in to this Excel spreadsheet and create this. And the reason that it's just me, the reason I don't have this in Google Docs, I put it up in Google Docs, but I work with it in Excel is just because Excel is just a little bit more powerful to work with, and for purposes of this, which sometimes I modify and do different things, that's why this is in Excel. This then shows me for the month by size. I've got by agency what we distribute, what they requested, what we distributed. And then I have by size at the bottom down here what I gave out by size. This information and this number right here, you see the 44008. Let me show you where that goes into. So this is our inventory management, and I've got a piece above that I'll show you in a minute, but this is our distribution each month. And you can see for December, 44008. So I just pull that information across by size, and it reduces my inventory right there. And then I can tell what we gave out for the month. And then because this is just always calculating, I can see what I've got in inventory. And it also helps us do some forecasting if we can see, you know, what we've been doing and the different sizes, how they've increased, decreased, and helping us determine what we need to order to have on hand. The other piece then is the incoming diapers, because we do get a lot. Some of them are purchases, some are actually donations, like everybody. And I'll show you that component here. And this is called our inventory sheet. And we actually have hard copies of these in our warehouse. And as diaper drives come in, and let me get one that was a really nice size at the end of the year for Christmas. As they come in, what we'll do is we've got this is accumulated over time, all the different package configurations. so that we can do inventory very quickly of what comes in. You can see, I mean, we had quite a few on this one. And we fill this out and then input this in Google Docs. And I've got my template here that's blank, and I just copy that. I just duplicate it, and then it's, you know, available for the next one, and then I just rename it. And then this way, this is tracking all the different diaper drives that came in, and it's got the package configuration so that you can see it's adding everything up for us. So here is what I ended up from this one. And then going into that inventory spreadsheet in Google Docs, and I'm sorry, my hand-eye coordination's so bad there, but you can see there's that drive. I just pull the totals then from each diaper size into this running total, and then I know the total right there. And we do not track by package configuration because, you know, as you can see from this sheet, there are so many different packages. We also rewrap diapers in packages of 25 and 10 for distribution because we do the 50 diapers per month per child, and then the 30 pull-ups per month per child. So what we have in our finished inventory is packages of 25 and 10 anyway, so these would not be meaningful to be tracking them by the manufacturer's package configuration. And we just recreate this then for 2013, taking that total there, and we just start again running our inventory. And you can see this was our January distribution. And, you know, this enables us to do, you know, all sorts of different things where we will show the purchases and we can keep it out of some of these numbers and just work with what is actually donated in terms of assigning a value to that. And you can see on here, for instance, we're assigning a 25-cent value on diapers and a 40-cent on pull-ups. So I will have a value assigned to that diaper drive of what we actually received on there. Okay. Do you know if there's any other questions about this?
Anybody have any more questions? Raise your hand or type in the, and I'm going to take some, I'll go ahead and unmute folks so that it's easier, especially the folks on calling, unless there's a problem. Any questions, anyone? Teresa Waltz, I see you have your hand up. Do you have questions?
If it's up, I'm sorry. That's a mistake.
All right, Teresa.
And I have a question. Is anyone utterly confused by what I showed you?
It looks like there might be a little bit of confusion. The folks who are confused, if you could express your confusion, that'd be great. All right. Well, Brooke, do you have a question? Miss?
Yeah, I just had a quick question about the Google documents that we were talking about in the beginning. And I'm just curious about whether or not each of your partner agencies is able to see what the other partner agencies are entering.
That is a great question. Yeah, that is a great question. Let me show you something here. What you do is you go in and you share that document. So, for instance, this is shared with George Anderson. And he's the only person, he and I are the only two people who can see this document. And if I share it with another agency or somebody else, then they can get in there. If not, they cannot see each other's documents. That's a really good question. So it does protect the information, and that's how we do it.
Okay, thank you.
And you know, the thing about the Google sharing is literally if George were on here or if another individual who shared, you would see, you know, if I were, in fact, this morning, Liz and I were in a shared document, and I was typing information. On her screen, she got into the document. She can see the information as I'm typing it. It's like a little phantom typer. And it is shared. You're both up in that cloud and looking at the document. And that's where all the processing takes place. And, you know, for us, what it did was it eliminated sending files back and forth. I could go in at any point during the month to see if they've updated it. If I needed to help somebody, we could both get on there and work through it. We didn't have to worry about versions of the file. And it's been for us, because we wanted to gather this information, it has been the, you know, the best thing for us. And it is very, very easy.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Any other questions? Pam, thank you so much for this presentation. I learned a great deal. I hope everybody else was learned a lot as well. We're going to have this recorded. We have recorded this, so it will be available for downloading if you want to go through anything. And I'm sure that Pam will be more than happy to answer any questions you might have. You can either email them to me or email to Pam directly. And I thank you all for participating.
And just want to also let you guys know, you know, you've got my contact information. We are more than willing to share anything we've created. If anyone needs some help and want to try something like this, we'll share it and be glad to do it.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Allison.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.